For example, I commented on Jake the Muslim Metaphysician's post. So Jake noticed an inconsistency in what Avery is saying about Protestants and Catholics and Orthodox, and then at the same time turning around and saying, if you teach anything other than justification by faith alone and sola fide and sola gratia, the Reformation distinctives, then you teach a false gospel and you're under the curse of Galatians 1. This is what he says in the Brian Davila interview. Now, all of these people are so dishonest that they can't see that Jake's point is correct. That doesn't mean that I'm supporting Islam. I just debated Jake a week ago. This is really idiotic tribal type of behavior to think that I'm only going to be on a team and I don't care how dirty my team fights, how underhanded, how fraudulent, how deceptive, how lying my team is. All of that's justified because you're the other team. It's childish. It's stupid behavior. And all of the hundreds of people in the comments underneath Jesus and whatnot, they're doing the exact same thing. First of all, they're saying he's a victim. He's not a victim for calling into my stream. If you call into my stream, we've had this going for almost a decade. This isn't a formal debate. This is where you are in a proving ground to do a formal debate with me, right? A lot of these people are 17-year-olds. It's in their bios. They're like 14, 17, but they're operating in giant Hispanic packs. It's a bunch of cholos trying to debate Thomism. They don't even know what it is. And they're all relying on AI. And it's gotten to the point of it just being absolutely insane. And I'm just pointing out that, do you understand, we're approaching it in a principled way. I'm going to say if Jake is right about something he says about GodLogic, that's factually correct. It doesn't matter if he's on another team. It's just factually true. GodLogic is now saying that if you don't teach justification by faith alone, you teach a false gospel. That means he now condemns all of his Orthodox, all of his Catholic and Oriental audience because they don't teach justification by faith alone. So he's already said, he's admitted now, he's finally having exclusivist positions. Now, at the same time, the irony here is that in Galatians 1 says that if you're a Judaizer, you're teaching a different gospel. But GodLogic is a Judaizer. He openly, consistently sends people to a synagogue where they circumcise people, which is Judaizing, textbook Judaizing 101. So even this idiot hypocrite who's sending people to a false gospel church, which is actually the context of Galatians 1, is calling Orthodox and Catholics and anyone else who doesn't believe sola fide a false gospel cursed person. And if you just want to side with, even if you think GodLogic is right, you have to be consistent and say that he's condemning Orthodox and Catholics. And all you guys do is play teams and you don't care about what's true. This ultimately only hurts you. I'm trying to tell you this. Don't you understand that Lofton did this in 2018 and now he's irrelevant? The people that do this, you become irrelevant. You won't even be here doing this stuff in 5 to 10 years. You'll be in something else. And for the grifters, they don't care. They'll just move on to some new thing. This quote. Now, obviously, I tried to splice together the key points where they're talking about this topic. So you can go watch this full interview. And by the way, Brian Davila is 100% a scammer. He's the dude that claims he can float. It's what he told me when he interviewed me. He didn't put the interview up because I called him out. He's like, you're saying I can't float because I levitated and it was the miracle of God. I mean, the guy's a total phony.
Who Jesus is. This is the true gospel. You know, there's nothing that you can do to be saved, like of your own works. Like, because the Book of Mormon, it'll say that you're saved, you know, that you receive the, the gift of grace after all you can do. So it's after all I can do, then he covers for me. No, the Bible says you are saved by grace, right? Alone. It's the gift of God.
Yeah.
You don't work for a gift. You can't work for a gift. It's a free gift, right? All you gotta do is trust in the Lord. You believe in him and who he truly is. Make him your Lord in your heart and your life. And boom.
Yeah, that's not all there is to what salvation justification is. So he's really just repeating sola fide, sola gratia, like Reformation basics. And in this interview, they discuss false gospels, right? It all comes up. Remember, Galatians 1, when Paul says that, that's the context of condemning the Judaizers. Did you hear me? GodLogic explicitly sends people to messianic synagogues that practice dietary laws and circumcise people. So he doesn't even realize that what he's saying is a false gospel in Galatians 1 is his own position. That's why you can't do churchless apologetics. And now he's starting to finally have to come out with positions, and he's siding with the Reformation distinctives. And he's saying if you teach anything else, and that's what Orthodox, Catholics, and Orientals teach, then you are teaching a false gospel. You have to be consistent with this. And all these people are just playing team members. Well, I'm on Avery's team. I don't care if he's totally contradicting himself and being a hypocrite. I'm on his team because you're mean. Like, are you a 12-year-old? Are you a girl? What are you talking about?
You're saved. You have
All right, so let's run it back. Next quote.
this. When God says that there's no other God besides me, right? But they say, yeah, there's many gods besides you. They'll argue that God the Father was once a man.
He's talking about
That
Mormons.
then became God. That's blasphemous. So they have a false gospel. They have a false Jesus. So if you have a false...
So notice, Mormons have a false gospel and a false Jesus. But he's also going to say that if you teach that justification is not the Reformation view, you have a false gospel.
And therefore you have a false Jesus, and therefore you have a gospel that can't save.
By the way, as he got called out the other day, he didn't know what the Nicene Creed was. He didn't know why there's two creeds. He didn't know why the Filioque is relevant in regard to the creed. So by this definition, on his own grounds, that would also mean that churches that don't have the Orthodox monarchical model that he defends, if they teach Filioque, then they have a different God, according to his own logic, his own God logic.
Got it.
Right.
So what does someone need to do to be saved?
You believe on Jesus.
Okay,
You
but they
believe-
would argue they believe in Jesus.
Right. But this means that you believe in who he truly is. You can't just say, oh yeah, I believe in...
There we go. That's admitting our point, right? You can't just say, oh, I believe in Jesus, I believe in the Trinity. He's saying that against Mormons. But he's been saying this whole time, just believe in Jesus, just believe in the Trinity. It doesn't matter what church you go to. Do you understand he just contradicted himself? This is what we've been saying for the last 6 months.
We have a lot of people who are, beautiful people
Yeah.
that are in a falsehood, in darkness, and kept in that darkness because and deceived by a false gospel. It is up to us to be like, hey guys, we love you. So look, here's the truth.
Yeah.
This is who Jesus is. This is the true gospel. There's nothing that you can do to be saved, like of your own works. Like, because the Book of Mormon, it'll say that you're saved, that you receive the gift of grace after all you can do. So it's after all I can do, then he covers for me. No, the Bible says you are saved by grace, right? Alone.
It does not say that. And by the way, you notice he's calling out Muslims today because Muslims are citing things in the Quran that are not explicitly stated in the Quran, which is fine. However, if you're a Protestant, as Avery is, remember he pushes his dad's Pentecostal hooting and hollering fart church, where they scream and do voodoo and shit. Excuse me, the Bible doesn't say faith alone. The Bible doesn't say grace alone. Where does Jesus say sola fide? Oh, he doesn't. Oh, okay. But you're asking that on the part of the Muslim, right?
It's the gift of God.
Yeah.
You don't work for a gift. You can't work for a gift. It's a free gift, right? All you gotta do is trust in the Lord. You believe in him and who he truly is. Make him your Lord in your heart and your life. And boom.
Yeah, that's not true. That's the Reformation doctrine. And if you go to this interview, you can go watch the rest of it where they say, if you teach something else, it's a different gospel. Tristan, did you want to comment?
Yeah, it's funny because it's basically just a bunch of platitudes, right? Like, oh, if you just accept Jesus in your heart, just make him Lord over your whole life. It's like they act like these are just some simple statements that everybody's going to understand how to implement. But also this whole thing about, well, if you believe any works, right? If you believe that any of your works can get you closer to God in any way, you're damned, right? You're not going to make it. You're not elect. You were never really elect. You were never really Jesus's friend. You were never really cool. But if you ask them, okay, is accepting Jesus and accepting that faith alone is how we're saved? Is that something I can choose to do? Right? You know, can I choose to do that? Must I choose to do that, or is it done for me? They're going to say, "Oh, it's something you choose." Right? Most of them are going to say, "Yeah." If they take the other route, I don't know where they're going to go. Then it's just, you know, you're into like double predestination gobbledygook.
Well, you also have to exercise faith, and even if you think it's a gift, it's still a requirement that you have to do, and that's why this was actually an old school Reformation debate, and this is a still ongoing debate amongst Reformed Reformation people. Is do you actually have to exercise faith, and does faith actually play any role in justification itself? Now, strict Reformation people say no. Like Lutherans, their whole position is no, your own faith isn't even part of it, because justification as a doctrine is solely on the basis of what Jesus did. And even you being caused to have faith flows from that. So they won't even say or admit that faith is a work, even though Jesus says this is the work of God, that you believe on him whom he has sent. So faith is a work, but they don't even want to go that far because they realize the problem. Well, if faith is necessary, then there's still something that I'm required to do, which would be, in their view, works-based salvation. He sort of tries to play a middle ground for a long time. And, you know, when somebody asks him about, is the church the new Israel, the fulfillment of Israel, and he sort of talks around it, won't be very, very clear about it, and he's basically sort of Zionist-ish. But look, that's because it's all kind of forcing him into admitting that he's basically got these evangelical Protestant Zionist positions, which is what we suspected the whole time, and that's why we were, again, nobody just was mean to GodLogic for no reason. Everybody tried to be very friendly and open-handed and helpful. And look, all of the arguments against the Muslims he got from our monarchical Trinitarian view and from Sam Shamoun. It's all of Sam Shamoun's articles, Sam Shamoun basically tutoring him on how to debate the Muslims, and the monarchical Trinitarian view. So how would we be mean to him if, like, he basically got all that from us? But then we pointed out, you can't be neutral on the church and on justification and on the sacraments. You can't be neutral on all this stuff. Can't even be neutral on like the Zionist position, really. So now it's forcing him into kind of admitting, okay, fine, I believe sola fide. I believe, justification by faith alone. And if you don't believe that, you teach a false gospel. The video where Lecrae and GodLogic are talking, at 24 minutes in, GodLogic rejects exclusivism. From minutes 29 to 32, theology matters, but suddenly he won't debate it. At 56 minutes in, he borrows the monarchical Trinitarian doctrine, but explicitly rejects orthodoxy. 1 hour and 6 minutes in, notes there's no follow-up on any of the converts that he gets. So GodLogic is supposedly converting everybody, but he doesn't care what they're converting to or what church. Well, by the way, he does send them to the Messianic synagogue where they snip, you pee-pee, so that's not true. At 1 minute and 1 hour 13 in, he grifts Sam Shamoun's articles for a new GodLogic book. Interesting. I bet he doesn't even cite it. Watch him not even cite the sources. So that's Lord Byron is saying, if you go watch Lecrae and GodLogic interview, it proves all these points we've been making.